time for some Bryan's world famous Blue Ribbon chili. Well, it's not exactly world famous, but it is Bryan's Blue Ribbon chili, and someone else gave it that name, not me. So, in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make my homemade turkey chili recipe. It's a great meal prep idea. It's super easy to make, super tasty, and the best part, it's healthy and nutritious. So let's get started. So let's start with our ingredients. We're going to use 3 cans of crushed red tomatoes, 2 cans of cannellini beans, 2 cans of spicy chili beans, 1 can dark red kidney beans, 3.5 pounds of ground turkey, 1 can of diced green chilies, a half cup of cornmeal, a half cup of chili powder, 1 medium white onion diced, 3 habaneros diced, 3 tablespoons of minced garlic, 3 tablespoons of cumin, 2 tablespoons oregano, 1.5 tablespoons black pepper, a 1/4 tablespoon cayenne pepper, a half teaspoon of nutmeg, and finally 1/4 tablespoon of pink Himalayan salt. Alright, so let's get right into making our turkey chili. So, the first thing that we got to do when it comes to making our turkey chili is we got to brown our ground turkey. So, the first step is you're to get your pot and you're going to heat it up on medium-high heat. After you heat it up onto medium-high heat, you're just going to add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. It's not a lot, it's just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, so that way once we add the ground turkey, we're not immediately searing that meat to the bottom of the pan and help prevent burning later on in our cooking process. So don't worry about overdoing it. It's literally just a small amount. The turkey itself has enough fat and juices that once it starts cooking, it'll help prevent any sticking to the bottom of the pan. So once we've done that, we're just going to take our 3.5 pounds of ground turkey and go ahead and dump it right on in. Now, don't forget to leave out any of those good pieces. You want every last bit. There's plenty of people going hungry, so don't leave that turkey anywhere except in your pot. So, once all the ground turkey's in, we're going to use our spatula and just mix it around a little bit and try and break it apart, okay? Because we don't want to have the ground turkey as one big chunk. We want it to be small pieces. So as it's browning, we got to make sure to constantly stir and mix it, so we're constantly breaking it apart and preventing it from and not allowing it to stick together. So once we've done that, we're now going to immediately add our minced garlic. We're also going to add our diced habaneros, and we're also just going to throw in our diced onions. So once we've thrown all of them in, all we're going to do is start mixing it together again. You really want to make sure that it's nice and evenly distributed throughout the turkey. It doesn't have to be exact, but you just want to make sure that you don't have big clumps of onions in one corner and, big clumps of garlic in the other. So just take your time, mix it around, and when you're mixing, make sure to scrape that bottom of the pan, okay? You want to scrape the turkey there and anything that's to be sticking to the bottom, because we don't want anything to burn. So if you're scraping it off, you're allowing it to come back on top as opposed to always sitting on the bottom, and that's what's going to cause your burns, okay? So as you can see here, I've got a good mixture. It's nice and set. And once we've got that mixed together, now I want to add the last ingredient for the first part, which is going to be our ground cumin. So I like to add the ground cumin directly to the ground turkey because it helps bring out a little bit of a beefy flavor in our turkey. So when you have your chili, it makes you think it's more of a beef chili than necessarily a turkey chili. I promise you won't even notice the difference, but you'll get a way healthier chili by using ground turkey as opposed to ground beef. So when you mix it in, again, just make sure you get a nice even distribution and continue stirring as we continue browning the meat. Don't let the meat just sit at the bottom of the pan, because if not, you'll just get one big clump, and that's not what you want in chili. You want little pieces of meat. Alright, so while I was mixing and browning my turkey, I brought over all my ingredients so I would have it ready so I could add it as soon as the turkey's done browning. As you can see, it's right before it's done browning. It still has some pink chunks in it. We're right there, okay? So you know when your meat is browned when it literally turns brown, okay? You don't want it to be a dark brown, but a very light brown. As soon as there's no more pink, that is brown turkey, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm using the spatula to continuously mix to prevent burning, but I'm also trying to continuously break apart the meat. Like I said before, we don't want big chunks, okay? So make sure you get all of it in there and you break it apart, okay? It's getting nice and hot, it's steaming up. You see it's turning nice and brown now. But I could still see some chunks in there. You could see kind of one that rolled right there. So I'm going to continue trying to just stab at it and break it apart and get into smaller, more manageable chunks before I'm worried about adding any of the ingredients. It's okay if it sits a little bit in this process, as long as you're not letting it sit for 10 minutes. You know, an extra minute or two isn't going to ruin your chili. Make sure you take the time to separate the meat and have it in smaller pieces so you're not just having giant chunks of turkey as you're eating your chili. Unless that's your preference, in which case, do as you please. That's the best part about cooking. So the first step we're going to do once it's browned is just throw in our 3 cans of crushed red tomatoes. Okay, I throw in the crushed red tomatoes first because we want to add a liquid really quick to kind of help prevent the browning process. And since it's the biggest part of our chili when it comes to the actual substance in the liquid, we want to start heating that up as soon as possible. So once you throw it in, you're just going to immediately mix the tomato sauce and the turkey around just to get some of the sauce on the bottom and get some of the turkey up off the bottom as well, and allowing it to really start heating up, okay? Because this is we wanted to start heating up. We want to get hot as quick as possible. So now it's a quick mix, nothing fancy, and now we're going to start adding all of our ingredients. So the first ingredient I always throw in is the biggest one, and that is our chili powder, okay? So our chili powder is really what's going to give it that nice spice and that chili flavor. So if you feel like your chili's lacking, throw in more chili powder. Next, I'm going to throw in some cayenne pepper. I like it really, really spicy, but if you don't want it that spicy, don't worry about the cayenne pepper. Then I throw in a little bit of black pepper, add a little bit more kick, and really bring out that flavor. And then I'm going to add a little bit of nutmeg, not a lot as you saw in our previous ingredients list. It's just to kind of sweeten it up and again add a little bit more depth of flavor. Same concept with the oregano. It's not there to sweeten it up, but it's there to add that depth of flavor that we want and add a little bit of color. Same concept with our green chilies, okay? We're adding a little bit of color with our green chilies, a very slight spice, and a little bit of flavor with them, okay? That's why I like this variety. You want your chili to look pretty. So the last thing I'm going to do is just throw in a little bit of pink Himalayan sea salt. Again, you don't have to do it in the beginning. You could wait till the end to add it, but I know I don't like it very salty, so I just threw it in right in the beginning so I don't forget about it later on in the process. Once everything's in, you're just going to give it a nice mix and make sure you scrape everything up off the sides. As you can see, I have some of the powder building up on the side, and you don't want to leave it there because then it'll burn and you're going to be missing out on adding that flavor to the chili itself. So really mix it in, get a good stir, make sure that there's nothing sticking to the bottom. As you can see here, I'm still scraping, okay? You can't see, so you got to use your spatula to feel around and make sure that there's nothing sticking. I'm trying to make sure that I cover the entire bottom of the pan with each stir. So now that I've got it nice and mixed together, it's looking good. I'm going to make sure that it's a good hot temperature and let it start heating up. So you can't see it quite now, but it's starting to heat up and it's kind of jumping up and down. It's kind of hard to see with the camera, but just imagine kind of like a heartbeat, just kind of jumping up just a little bit, just a little bit. You want to bring this up to a boil, but it's going to boil differently than water. So don't think you're going to see a bunch of bubbles coming up. No, you just want it to literally start steaming out and you're going to see little pops of breaking up bubbles here and there. But you know it's heating up when you see it jumping up and down like that. So I'm going to continuously mix it around, continuously mix it. You're doing a lot of stirring during this. You want to make sure that you're not burning your chili. You're making a lot at once. So if you just let it sit for too long, you're going to burn the crap out of the bottom and not cook the top. So as you can see now, now that the chili's getting nice and hot, we're actually going to reduce our heat and let it simmer for 45 minutes. So I reduce it to a medium-low heat. You want to make sure that during the entire 45 minutes that you're continuously stirring. I recommend about every 5 minutes. That's really going to help prevent burning. But now it's just a waiting game, guys. So just think about how delicious it's going to be. Now that we've allowed the chili to simmer for 45 minutes while continuously stirring, it's time to add in the rest of our ingredients. So first I start in with the cannellini beans. I love adding cannellini beans because it just adds a different color, gives some pop to the chili, and just visually makes it more appetizing and pleasing. Next we're going to add some spicy chili beans. If you don't want, again, your chili as spicy, you could choose a different level of spice, whether it be medium, mild, or just regular chili beans. This just adds a little extra flavor, gives it more of that chili flavor. Finally, we're just throwing in some dark red kidney beans, and again, just adding some contrast. You want some different colors so that visually your food is appetizing, it's appeasing. If visually your food looks good, you're going to want to eat it. And the benefit is not only is it delicious, it's healthy for you. So the final ingredient that we're adding is going to be our cornmeal. But you don't want to just pour the cornmeal directly in. You want to mix it with water first. So it's actually a 2-to-1 ratio of water to cornmeal. So we have a half cup of cornmeal, so we're going to just mix in 1 cup of water. You just get some water right out of the faucet and pour it straight on in. And once it's in, all you're going to do is get a whisk and just briskly whisk it together, making sure that it's not clumpy and that all of the cornmeal has been mixed in with the water. So the cornmeal serves 2 purposes. One, it adds a nice corny flavor and adds a little bit extra depth to our chili. But most importantly, it helps thicken our chili up. You don't want chili to be too watery, but at the same time, you got to watch out because if you add too much cornmeal, it'll become really, really, really thick. So if you have that problem where it becomes too thick, add a little bit more water. And if you have a problem where it's too runny, you just add a little bit more cornmeal and water. Now that it's in, you just mix it all together, give it a nice stir, making sure again that you're getting everything off the bottom. We don't want this chili to burn. Now that we have it all mixed together, all we're going to do is leave it on their simmering temperature for another 15 minutes. After 15 minutes comes the best part. Your chili's done. So now I'm just mixing it together to make sure it's a good consistency. You could see it's a good consistency because when I bring my spatula out, I got a nice coating of the chili. And you could see the chili itself. Look at all the colors. You got the reds and the whites, and you could see some of the greens from the green chilies. You want these colors. You want them to pop. It looks delicious. So now I'm just going to separate them into my containers. I just pour it in because I'm going to make a mess because I do not care. I'll clean up later. But if you want it to be a little less messy, you just grab a spoon and just spoon it in. But like I said, it's cooking. If you're not making a mess, you ain't doing it right. So now that it's done, look at these colors again. Look at you. Don't you want to just get in there and eat some chili? It's absolutely delicious. So that's my chili recipe. I hope you guys really enjoy it. At the end of this video, I also put down the macro breakdown so you could see how many carbs, the total calories, the protein and fat that's inside our chili. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was really a lot of fun to make, and I can't wait till I drop my next recipe.